Today, we're looking at a brown ink by Monteverde Canyon Rust. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. Down below, there's timestamps so that if there's only certain things you're interested, you can skip around to it. But if you've got the time, I would appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram. And if you like fountain pen ink reviews and are new here, I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Italics Chaplin's tankard with an oblique italic nib to write for a day and to take my notes for this video. This first writing sample is done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Additional papers will show up later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It has a peppering of shading all over. That peppering of shading means that we get some darker spots that are occurring and a few lighter spots that are occurring, like the K in quick or the L in lazy. Both very dark compared to what's around them, but the bottom of the F much lighter than what's around it. 7 seconds to dry. Medium is lighter than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and a lot more peppering of shading than we saw in the extra fine. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows no color variation, and it is harder to find in the extra fine. The medium left to right shows good color variation, just like what we get in that peppered shading of the medium. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 13 seconds to dry. Medium is a little darker than the extra fine, a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, that peppering of shading throughout, 20 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows us no color variation. We got none. The scrubby of the medium, left to right, you do see it's there, and that's the way that we get the shading to come through in the medium. Rhodia. No bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, the peppering of shading throughout. Again, there's just spots that are a bit darker than all the spots around it, and it's a lot of the spots, not just one or two. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, more of the peppery shading than we see with the extra fine, and 12 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine does show a little bit of color variation far left to far right, and we do get it, and the same with the medium, far left to far right, and that's how it shows up for the peppering of shading. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. Now, the yellow schmutz up there happened well after this chromatography was done. It's not a part of it. I think it was a transfer from another ink. But what we see is a red that's pushing its way up, and it's very light to very dark. It almost looks like it's actually two different inks or dyes that are there, one as a very kind of dark rose and the other as a red. And you see it really across the top where it's super dark, that second red. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And it really does make me feel that this is two different reds. One being a darker rose red, or darker rose pink, and then this very dark red. It's quite nice, and it's really where we're probably getting all of that nice peppery shading from. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I go straight to the lowercase h that says I won't use this in a note-taking situation if I want to highlight. Water is reactivating and lifting this ink off the page. Now, not all of it is gone, but with only 30 seconds, it's going to get there. I didn't need more than water. Pen flush is completely reactivating, lifting it off. It's doing a little faster work than water, but I don't think you need pen flush. And the 1/3 bleach solution that you do not need to clean your pen, it completely obliterates this ink. I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I've linked that video and put that in here for you. Now, for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Monteverde's Canyon Rust has a viscosity of 2.7, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Monteverde's Canyon Rust has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making it a little bit faster than normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Canyon Rust, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. So I wanted to go with a nice turquoise, and I chose Robert Oster's Aqua. The second writing samples are done on Nimicine, Fabriano, and a composition notebook like you would use in science class. Here we're looking at Nimicine paper. Now we get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It has some very nice peppering shading all over it, some super dark spots and some much lighter spots. Look at how dark that TE is. Extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, very nice peppery shading all over it, spots of darker letters everywhere. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, more of the peppery shading than we even see with the extra fine. This is very nice right here. 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium do show some color variation. It's not huge, but it's there, and that's what's allowing the peppery shading. Fabriano. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Now the extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 6 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get it. Last up is composition notebooks. Now I know a lot of people don't like them. I kind of like how they work, because if you get the ones made in like Taiwan, they tend to work fairly well. Now we get no bleeding, and of course we get ghosting. This is a super thin paper. The medium has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the medium with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. 4 seconds to dry. Scrubby shows us no color variation, and we don't get any color variation. That is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Monteverde's Canyon Rust? This is a slightly red-leaning brown that when you get some nice shading going on, you do see some of that reds. It makes it very unique looking, not for being a red-leaning brown, I've seen those, but this tone is, without a doubt, its own. That is awesome. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? If you want to bring out that red, a dry stub really does bring it out. But for me, a wet fine or wet medium truly gives me the color I'm enjoying the most. I do new ink reviews every single day, so if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.